Hey y'all, today I want to rap about why the Aeolian Native American style flute in the Aeolian scale is my all-time favorite scale. I've just like everybody else started on the most common Native American style flute, just like everybody knows about what we call the Native American flute today. And gosh, it must have been 25 years ago or so, I picked up my first Native American flute, and awesome scale. If you watch my videos, you know that scale is based off of the Japanese shakuhachi, that 5-note pentatonic minor scale, super great scale. And, in all honesty, there was a period of time of a handful of years where I was a little bit bored with that scale, Native American style flute. And yes, as a flute maker, I loved crafting flutes, and I completely honored the gift it was to share this beautiful instrument with the world and all that stuff. But on a personal level, I just was like, well, there's only so much I can do, and it was starting to feel a little monotonous. And I didn't really, if I was asked to play at a wedding, I would play. If I, was asked to do a little performance here and there, I would play. But on a personal level, I didn't go to that instrument to connect and to feel that, that musical expression and that inspiration from playing music. And, now over the years, it's been many years now where I've been experimenting with a whole bunch of different tunings. It's been a lot of years. I can't remember. It's got to be close to maybe 8 years now I've been making the Aeolian scale. And after getting into it, and the more I learned and the more that I made and, started honing in the scale, so to speak, man, I just got really, really into what it can do. And so this video is about why I love the Aeolian Native American style flute. Let's start by explaining that it is a minor. So the Native American style flute, the pentatonic minor that everybody loves, is within this scale. It's relatively easy to play songs that sound like the songs that we've always been playing. The difference being you will not have a cross finger note that everybody has learned. Oh, cover your ring finger on the top hand to play the 5-note pentatonic minor scale. And if you use that finger, you have to cross finger it. You do not have to cross finger any holes on the Aeolian flute. You just play up and down the scale, up and down the scale. There's nothing that you have to, think about other than just top to bottom, So that's really cool. And it does play the 5-note minor scale. I can show you real quickly how that's played. Instead of playing just the first note up, you play both notes at the same time up. That gives you the first note of the pentatonic minor. Then when you get up to, you get there and then past this note, then these two lift at the same time. And that will give you the scale. And then the top note is all fingers covered with an overblow, or all fingers covered with the top note uncovered. Okay, so. So that is the 5-note pentatonic minor scale. So by converting, or by owning or playing one of these, you lose nothing from the pentatonic minor. You only add to it. And so, as you notice, the way I played that, there's half-step notes in between the pentatonic minor scale. It's making a 7-note minor scale. Penta means 5, and the pentatonic minor is a 5-note scale. This is a 7-note scale. We have 6 holes, all that are used, and then the top note, in this case a G, is all fingers covered with the top note. And so it gives it more of a a Celtic-y flavor, I guess, or some people think of like Renaissance times or a medieval vibe to it. And depending on how you play, because there's half steps in it, some people think it sounds a little bit Middle Eastern. So it gives a lot of different flavors. It can give that pentatonic minor flavor and or Middle Eastern and or say Celtic minor feel. So. Back to Native American style flute scale, pentatonic. And then Aeolian. Okay. Another reason why I love the Aeolian flutes, it's because the distance between the fipple edge, or where the sound is produced, to the highest hole on the flute, I'll call it the top note on the flute, is a lot farther down the barrel. And there's ways I can do that. This is a key of G, it's in a 3/4 inch bore. If I had a 7/8 bore, it would be pushed up a little. I make them both ways. The benefit of a 7/8 bore is potentially maybe a slightly bit fuller of a sound, but also closer and or smaller finger holes. That's potential. However, if you notice, when I make the Aeolian style flutes, I tend to make the holes larger. The reason being is because when we stretch this barrel down, like I was saying, and move the notes down the flute, it gives you more of an ability to have an extended high octave range. And you know, that's not just as easy done as I just said, but you know, as a flute maker for many years, that's part of the equation, is extending the barrel long, bringing the holes farther down from where the sound is produced. If you picture a silver fluteral, the holes are way over here, they're not way up here. You know what I'm saying? That's how come you get a 2-octave register. And so when we're making this Aeolian scale, it brings the holes down, and that gives you an extended high octave range if it's made properly. And so that is another perk. And I will say, the larger that the holes are, and I'm letting you know this because if you're purchasing one, you know, small holes is not the better option. Larger holes is the better option. If you are looking for a very versatile flute with a lot of range, the larger holes are going to be better. And so in most cases, say, for example, in this 3/4 inch board G, I get, we'll call it an octave and 3/4, more than an octave and a half. On almost all my Aeolians, we're going to get an octave and a half range, okay? And so I'll just show you, I'll go up the scale and then I'll blow harder and then go up the scale again. A lot of times I can't achieve a full octave, meaning all fingers lifted, but I can almost always do 5 of the 6 fingers lifted on a G, or, you know, a lot of the keys that I advertise that get an extended high octave range. But I'll go up the scale from lowest to the highest note that I can achieve. And so when you're playing music, and if you watch my videos on YouTube, or you know, that's usually where I post my longer videos, then you'll see that I play, like, I loop a rav drum. One of my favorites is the G pygmy rav drum with the G Aeolian 3/4 inch bore flute with the extended high octave range. Have a new album coming out. You got to check it out. It's got one of those songs. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. Is this G Aeolian rav drum with the G, or the G pygmy rav drum with the G Aeolian flute. Really sweet. And so that much range. It just gives you so much more you can do when you're playing music, when you're jamming. It's just, you know, the more range, the more possibilities, the more flavor, the more expression that you can have. And, you know, it's like when we're playing the flutes and playing the Native American style flutes and we're expressing ourselves through that flute, I mean, part of why I think I get compliments as a flute player is the ability to emote through the flute. Part of that has to do with the player. Another part of that has to do with the possibilities of the flute you're playing. Another perk for the Aeolian flute. And so another huge one is if you're an intermediate, you know, let's call it Native American style flute player, you will know, and or intermediate musician, let's say, you will know that all minor flutes also have a relative major that plays with it. And so I don't know if I can, yeah, I can. I'm trying to think, what is the relative major of a G? And I'm going to say E flat. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm right that the relative major of a G minor is a B flat major. And so if I'm correct, I know that an A is the relative major of an A minor is a C major. And so that's a very popular scale. A minor is, and so is C major. However, in this case, this is a G. I do have an A minor here as well. But in all the Native American style flutes that I make, back to that original scale, I can get a full relative major. But in order to get that full relative major, you have to give it a little bit more thought. You have to cross finger and you have to half hole in order to get the full major scale. And so on a Native American style flute, my intention was to show you the difference. Let's see if I have one close enough. Yes, I do. Try this bear flute here. This is an E flat bear flute. The relative major is a lot more difficult to play on a Native American style flute than an Aeolian. And I'll just do this really quick. In order to play the Native American, or the relative major scale on a minor Native American style flute, you start with your bottom finger uncovered and you start going up the scale. You have to throw in the cross finger to get it, and then high octave notes with a half hole. The very high do of a Native American style flute on Singing Tree Flutes is a half hole. In some cases it's a full, but sometimes if you do the full, it's either going to be sharp or it'll crack. So watch what I do here. That little roll off half note on the high do. Cross finger. Super attainable, and you know, once you practiced it, you can get it pretty good. However, back to the Aeolian here. Use this one. The relative major scale is super simple to achieve on the Aeolian flute. Okay, so what I showed you there is you would start with this finger uncovered to get the relative major. I'm guessing that this is a B flat major. We'll see. In the Aeolian, because you know there's added notes to it, you get the relative major by starting with two fingers lifted off of the scale. But then there's no cross fingering and there's no half notes after that. And it's completely in order. So if you go back to what I showed you, all of the notes you can achieve, including the high octave register, it's just a basic order from the lowest note to the highest note. So that's just going straight up the scale from the lowest note to the highest note. All fingers back covered. And that's the full scale. So we just played a major scale. Because we started at the lowest note, you probably didn't even hear that we played a major scale like do, re, mi. And so when we start here and we do that same thing, but starting from here, you will hear the full do, re, mi scale. And so it's just straight in order, just like I just did, from this note, continuing to go up in pitch to the high do. So listen to it. So the reason why that is so freaking cool is because here I am. I have this one flute. I have the ability to go into, play a minor. So I'm trying to create a song. I actually have like a few music projects in the works right now. So this is an actual thing that happened. I have this person who has a record label, and they're having me do some flute recordings for a Miguel Medina flute album. You can find that on Spotify. You can start looking. And one of our next songs that we're creating, he just laid down a piano and a guitar melody, and I had to listen and break down what it is that I'm playing. And it took me a while to find the right flute, because I'm like, it sounds kind of like a major scale melody. And I found that the Aeolian that I had played perfect, but what I realized is that the song had this light, angelic feel. And so, yeah, I could have done it on a Native American style flute, but it's a little bit less fluid. And I'm talking about a 20-year experienced flute player, myself, 25, whatever. And on a Native American style flute, to just close my eyes and to be fluid with playing and getting that major scale flavor out of this one song, it would be too much thinking that too much that I would prefer, because the way that I play music is very fluid and intuitive, you know what I mean? And this just opens up the doors for a much more intuitive flow, because it's so simple. And again, there's really nothing I have to change, except in my mind I'll be like, well, instead of landing on these bottom two notes, I'll stop here, because then if I'm just playing here, I'm playing the major scale. It's like there's nothing to it. So easy to convert from minor playing to major playing. That is such a huge perk in a single instrument. And if any of you are experienced Native American style flute players, I think that you're understanding what I mean about like the simplicity around easily playing in a different scale. Like, wow, that's really awesome. And so I would say those are the main reasons why I love the Aeolian flutes. And I don't know if you've watched, and do I have any more? How about the rest? Let me see. No. How about the rest? I'll just explain verbally. If you've been watching my channel, if you follow us, Singing Tree Flutes here, subscribe if you don't, okay? And you will have seen our 8-hole Aeolian alternating drone. It's possible, but it doesn't sound nearly as good, and the whole point of the Aeolian 8-hole alternating drone, and what that is the drone flute that has the pinky hole, but the drone flute also has the thumb hole. So we got this Aeolian scale going with all of that it does. It does the major, it does the high octave range, it does, have the extra notes in that minor scale that give it up, more versatility and more unique flavor. But then when you add that drone and you add a pinky and the thumb, because of the placement of that, like I said, it is impossible on a Native American style flute to achieve what I can on an Aeolian. Because of the placement of the pinky and the thumb, I am now able to achieve 5 notes on the drone side. And so on an E, I think, because that's a real common one, so I think I can memorize that, I'm getting the notes E as the drone, the low drone that drones with it, just like any drone flute. I'm getting the note A, the note B. The note A is from this. The note B is putting that pinky down and lifting the thumb hole. The note C is lifting both the thumb hole and the pinky simultaneously. And then the high E, which is the 5th note on the drone scale, is by overblowing the low E. So you get low E, high E, A, B, and C all in one scale. And on just the drone side alone. Essentially, here we started talking about the Native American style flute. That's a 5-note pentatonic minor. I mean, yeah, it has some high octave notes and stuff, but typically people are very commonly playing a 5-note scaled flute. And on this Aeolian drone flute that I'm describing, it has 5 notes on the drone side alone. So, you know, talk about diversity. I mean, that's gotta be the most versatile flute that I make. Not to mention that one of my all-time 2021 favorite flutes to make was the one that had the contrabass F sharp or G on the drone side, and then it had the bass B or C Aeolian. And I make that in the native scale, I make that in the Arabian scale, but the vibe, where the Aeolian scale takes you with that type of flute is, again, check out the new album. We'll be letting you know when that comes out. But pretty awesome. So those are pretty much the main reasons why this flute is the all-time favorite. I'll just conclude with just stating that it's also my all-time favorite because as people who are being musical, we're expressing ourselves through a musical instrument. We also, the way I see it is, we're bearing ourselves to the world. We're exposing ourselves through musical expression. We're revealing ourselves to ourselves through an instrument. And for me, the Aeolian scale does that more than any other scale flute. Like like say I play a handpan or a rav drum, and then I just loop that and then start playing the Aeolian flute. I go places. I go places. I feel like the instrument is an extension of myself, and when I express it, I feel it. And so, with the help of the handpans and everything, the Aeolian flute has brought me to this stage of my life, 25 years into flute playing, to where I'm having more enjoyment from playing a flute than I have the whole ride, the whole journey. Maybe that's the way it always should be for people who've been playing instruments a long time, but going to this scale, playing it with accompaniment, and the way that I emote through this particular scale it's top notch for me. I mean, it's definitely my favorite to play. So that's the point of this whole video. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there and share this, and you know where to find us. I'll try to add some links attached to the description of this video so that you can find these. I have a bunch of these ones in stock right now, but all of the flutes I described that are Aeolian scale, they're all available currently. And yeah, just keep on checking us out. We'll share more with you, and have yourself a great day. Thanks for listening.